Welcome to Wake Up and Dream. We are so excited to talk today about our a formula that I'm using with my direct sales team to really help them not only dig into what's at the heart of what matters most to them, but how to get there. And today we want to just dive in, take kind of a little dive into that asking part. So the formula that I've created is the A's formula for achieving what matters most to you. And it includes three A's of asking plus awareness plus attitude. And then you multiply that times action on steroids or action cubed. And that formula is going to propel you to achieve what matters most to you. So when I think about what matters most, I know in direct sales, it's often like, what's your why? What's your why? What's your big dream? All of that kind of lingo. And for me personally, I mean, I've been in direct sales 12 years and oh my gosh, the beginning when they would say, what's your why? You got to know your why because that's going to, keep you motivated and keep you, working towards a goal that matters to you. And I had a really hard time, like way back 10 years ago. I was like, I have no idea what I want in my life. I don't know how to dream. We didn't have money. Um, it just didn't seem possible. And my belief in even allowing my brain to think about that kind of stuff, it just wasn't at that place. But the longer I've been in direct sales, you just learn how to think outside of your reality, of your present reality, to what do I want? But the why, almost, because after a while you just kind of hear it all the time and it just kind of loses its meaning. So when I rephrased it and really connected it to my heart, it was like, what matters most, right? It's not $5,000 or, this accomplishment, but it is what that money can do and bring to you and your family. That is really what matters. And so in my own personal diving and what I'm doing with my team is facilitating them to ask questions that get at the core values that are most important to them. So, have you ladies heard of core values? What's your experience with core values?
I have heard it a few times, and I definitely have dove into. I know there's so many that your heart can be pulled towards. And I know, Lisa, if you want to explain a little bit more about a core value, it's kind of just what is important to you. How do you want to be seen as a person? Am I getting that right, Lisa? And like what you want to put out in the world and what represents you the most. When they think of Lisa Taylor, she is XYZ, and that is portrayed by how you come out in social media, coaching your team, working with your customers. Like, oh, Lisa is the person who is, and then am I on the right
Yeah,
track?
I think that's a big part of it, but I think it really plays a role. I mean, the two things that come to my mind is when you're faced with a decision, do I do this or not? You can hook into what are my core values. Like we've been talking with Sarah and travel. I mean, I'm not going to put that in her mouth but I really think that travel is a core value for her. And it may not be the word travel, maybe it is, you know, experience or something, along those
Adventure.
lines. Adventure. See, there it is. Adventure.
There it is.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and because adventure is a core value of hers, then if they're going to decide to, spend X amount of money on an upgraded bathroom, kitchen, new flooring, or whatever, or spend that money on a trip or an adventure, their core values make that decision easier. So that's one area where I think core values can, it's like a filter where you're like, okay,
Mhm.
these are what's really, really, really important to me. And every decision goes through that filter. And,
Mm.
and I think when you really know your core values and you make a decision that's not in alignment, you can feel it. It's like, oh, that just doesn't feel like it's in alignment
Mhm.
with what's important to me. And so it can really help you to feel in alignment. But the other thing that I think core values just naturally does is it springs you into action. Like it springs you into moving in the direction of what's most important to you. So if adventure is that key core value, well, then having a savings account and maybe working an overtime day, maybe putting the garage sale money towards a goal that is in direct alignment with what's most important at your core.
Ew, I love, love, love that definition. And that even goes even deeper into what I just kind of scratched on the surface. So that is super helpful, Lisa. So I would say, as I was looking, and we will put some of these core values in our show notes for sure. Lisa has this awesome list that you can just kind of sit on and meditate and get quiet with, and really pick two, three, four that will be your core values. And it's almost taking like your word of the year to a whole new level, but it's something that you just use all the time in all the decisions you make. So as you were talking, I was just kind of thinking for myself too, and life can be crazy and decision making and changes and all the things. And for me and my personality, where I am in my life right now, almost 43, I'll probably be 43 by the time this airs. I feel the sense of peace in everything moving forward. Life has been crazy. And by the time you listen to this episode, we will have moved from Kentucky back to our home state of Colorado. And so through this whole transition and decision making, peace has really been like just this deep, deep soul heart given reminder for myself to have. Each decision, each new step that it takes to putting your house on the market, to cleaning your house for potential buyers, packing, all the things, scheduling. I refuse to sit in anything but peace. And it just helps me through whatever we're going through, whether it's helping Jace transition or my husband or our entire family. Again, because if you've been with us for a while, you know that my entire family moved from Colorado to here in Kentucky, and now we're all going back. So as a 9, I all in the Enneagram, I also have this core, which just reminded me, that's so funny that those two just aligned, and I didn't mean that. I am the peacemaker, but it's not of a sense of making, I don't feel this burden of making everyone else happy, but you do have that whole sense of, I want the peace. And everybody's going to have their own like personality and how they handle the stress and the move and all the outside noise. But it's how I receive all the information, how I deal, for lack of a better word, with it
For
all,
sure.
but helping me with the peace. So for right now, especially in this season, peace is definitely at the core.
And your core values evolve as you evolve. But I
I
think
could
there's
see that for
some,
sure too, Lisa.
right.
Yes.
And I do think there's some that are just really lifers
Yeah.
that are, like super, they're not changing for me. And I find it interesting because, part of the thing that I'm doing with my team is not only helping them ask the questions of what matters most, what is it about you, about your past experiences, what do you value, and what do you want to create based on those values? But it also has something to do with your personality. And so the fact that peace is one of your core values doesn't surprise me with the Enneagram 9. And one of my core values is connections. And that is very two-ish in the Enneagram world. It's all about togetherness and being a part of something bigger than just you. And I just think that's so cool because when I think of the word connections, when I first did, so basically it's this page of words, right? Of values, anything from, authenticity to work ethic to courage to um, travel to whatever. There's a whole bunch of them, right? Um, and you go through the list and there's going to be words that pop off the page that just resonate with you at your heart level. And the exercise has you start with start by circling 20, and then you narrow it down to 5. I know Brene Brown wants you to narrow it down to 3, which would be super hard, but 5 is even a challenge. But what I did when I narrowed it down is I marinated. Like I let it sit in that little cooker and I thought about the words. And when I first started, this like also shows my Enneagram too. I was like, well, I should have family, faith, those are my shoulds.
The
Um,
shoulds. Mhm.
right. Or, my hopes. And this is not your core values are not what you hope for, or what you wish that you were like, kind of thing. Because I think that
Mhm.
can get mixed into our thinking about it, but it's really being honest with yourself. And when I thought of faith and family, for me personally, like, again, like, yeah, those are important to me, but it didn't evoke an emotion. It was like those trite words that are overused, like everybody, live,
And that
laugh,
part
love.
probably just comes natural. Faith and family for you is
Right.
natural. That's like breathing air for you. But
Right.
for
So
someone else,
s-
building their faith or, family
yeah.
relationships, that's something that needs, to be at the forefront. Because I could just say, like with Sarah wanting to probably be adventurous, like I would love to be adventurous, but that's not me. And that's not going to drive me. That's not going to get me closer to my goals. But that's Sarah's fire. So I
Sure.
can
For
see where you
sure.
were saying, like, just because maybe you want to be or you wish you could be that, that's not then your core value.
Right. Or another like little twist on it is when I found the word connections, I was like, "Oh, I love that." Like that just resonates at my core. And then I marinated on it and I was like, "Okay, this is what is most important to me. It's connecting with people. It's connecting with God. It's connecting with my kids. It's connecting with nature." So the word connection for me is way deep. It encompasses faith and family. But it's a fresh word for me that goes deep.
Lisa, I have a question on this. So, you really spoke to me when you were talking about like making a decision through the lens of these values. One of the things that I feel like always comes up for me is just my awareness about how everybody else is going to benefit or not benefit from that decision, which is
Mhm.
I'm not looking at it through the correct lens necessarily. So how does like, how it, if I'm trying to look at something through the lens of my core values, but it doesn't necessarily align with like my husband's core values, like how do we make joint decisions and still all come out and be like, okay, this was the right decision? You know, is there an answer to that? Or is it really just like you have to kind of weigh things out? I don't know.
I guess I would say that there are certain core values that are uniquely yours. Like at your core, these are your absolute, these are really important to me. And then there are other core values that are shared. And, even a family or a couple can have core values that they come together. I was just listening to Brooke Castillo. I mispronounced her name, probably. Help me,
Brooke
Kelly.
Castillo, I think.
Yes.
Mhm.
And she did a podcast on her company values. And so it was like she started the company and she made decisions for her company through the lens of her core values. Now she has a team, and so they got together recently and re like took everything out of the bag and said, "Okay, so what are our core values?" And some of them, she said, were the same as hers, and some of them weren't. And they created different ones, a set of core values that would be their company's core values. And I think that's what you would do, in a family situation, in a company situation, in a team situation. I don't know if that helps, Sarah.
Definitely. It's you're looking at it from like the unit. Like you are a unit that has values and you can drive decisions based on that. And I feel like doing this exercise as a couple would be really telling and would probably help a lot with communication and with just general understanding. And when these tough decisions come up, it will be an easier discussion to have because you're going to be looking at it through the same lens. Whereas if, your husband or whatever, whoever in your family, is coming at it from one angle and you're coming at it from another angle, that's where conflict happens. But if you're actually kind of have this united front and these united set of values that are helping to drive decisions, it'll be like, okay, this actually makes sense for us.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. And so, you know, I think I think it's so important to know your core values. It's not something that I have done. Like I don't have a history of, oh, well, they've evolved because 10 years ago my core values were like, and this is like new on the scene for me as well. But it just makes so much sense because we want to live purpose-filled lives. And how we do that is being in alignment with what matters most to us. And so that's the
I
beauty of this.
I love it. This is actually so I know Kelly has dabbled a little bit in core values before. My extent of my experience with core values has been you sharing that connection was one of yours. Just recently, Lisa, I took that at face value, just given like the definition of core and the definition of values and what that means. But like this conversation really helped me understand more about why it's important and how you can actually leverage them, how you can use it to figure out what matters most in your life. One of the things that you said earlier on about the why and network marketing, like I feel that like that didn't speak to me as much as it should, or maybe originally it did. And I was like, oh, my why. And then I was just kind of like, I don't know. It kind of got old fast for me. So this is like a fresh perspective with a lot of uniqueness for each individual person to explore versus just what's your why? Like that's just like the common question across the board. But this is just getting so much deeper into you and who you are. And it's really like essentially your like ingrained principles that are going to help guide you with whatever you're doing. So if you are, pursuing entrepreneurship, if you are really focused on travel, if you're focused on your family, like these are going to be those principles that help you succeed in that area and help you kind of make decisions based on that. So this was a really amazing, amazing conversation. Thank you, Lisa, for actually bringing this up today.
You're welcome. No problem at all.
Are we going to continue this conversation, or you have some other things to share along these lines so that we can explore deeper?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind exploring a little deeper. I'd like to actually coach you two a little bit to see what we could find. That would be kind of fun.
Are you open for that, Kelly?
We can totally do that. Everybody stay tuned for another episode.
All right. Well, sounds good.
Sarah and
I. Sounds like there's going to be a part 2 of this one, and it might be very telling because who knows? Maybe we can have like our hubby's guest on here too at one time, so we can like discover our couple values. I think my husband would kill me for that idea, but who knows?
You never know. I would have to say though, like just even finding out about Todd and I and it's only a tool. It's never a label, but the Enneagram is like finding out his personality and the way he does things and him knowing why I do things. Like this just is also another tool to have as a couple in your tool belt, if you will, like knowing where each other's dreams have gone, especially if you've been married for more than a year. I feel like everybody changes and you have new goals, new aspirations, you move, you change jobs and all the things. And I think reconnecting with your spouse would be like so cool. I don't know if our husbands will do it, but we can like tease them a little bit.
Yeah. Or we'll have the discussion and then we'll just talk about them on the podcast, right? Isn't that what
That's right.
Platform is for? So thank you so much, Lisa, for bringing up this topic today. It's super helpful. And I'm excited to dig in a little bit more. Adventure was one that just kind of came to me, but maybe that was for a particular reason that we will discover as you coach us through this. So if you've been listening in, please reach out with any questions. And we hope to see you back here next week for more on the core values discussion. So until then, wake up and dream.